So, do you ring the same bell throughout the play, or do you have different bells for different angels?
Oh, I got so many different bells. There's the bell at the end, which is one that Tom Andrew lent me. And there's a service bell that rings. And there's a little cash register bell that's very important in the show.
Oh yeah, at the drugstore where he works as a kid, right?
Yes, and also at Martini's bar when things turn dark.
And they do turn dark. So now the bell that you ring at the end of the play that when Bailey's daughter has her famous line, Tisha says every time a bell rings an angel gets its wings. That's the one that you rang right away at the beginning?
Yes, yeah. And in fact, I do different bells every night. A lot of people who come to the show and know the show come to me right before and say, "Oh, use this one, please." So I actually use a different bell every night for that last final scene. And if anyone loans me a bell, I use it. This is the one that Nikki Hansel likes. She's our production stage manager. Uh-huh. And this is the one that Mary Beth Belowski DeLeo likes. She's the director this year. And this is the one that Sean Murray, the original director, wanted me to use. And then, of course, there's the one that the star, Tom Andrew, asked me to use as well.
Tell me how you become a sound effects person. Is it just a matter of using your imagination and saying, oh gosh, this would be cool to use for this kind of sound in a radio play? Or do you have resources you can use to know that something is going to sound like something else?
There are industry standards. For instance, what sound do you think this is?
I think that sounds like you're walking through snow.
That is correct. The industry standard for walking through snow is to squeeze a box of cornstarch. And right now, the packaging of cornstarch is changing. They're moving it to little canisters. So, oh my God, I bought a case of it recently because I need to have my boxes of cornstarch. There are two sounds that are in the show that are very hard. And one of them is sound of breaking glass. And you can't really break glass on stage because that's dangerous. Although normally what people do is they would have a window pane, an old window, in a thick bag, and they might shatter the glass while it's inside the bag. Yeah. But the thing is, you can't reload. So for me, what I ended up doing was I took some Meinl chimes and a little airline bottle of liquor, and I throw it onto the Meinl chimes, which are laying on a table. So it sounds something like this. Did that sound like breaking glass to you?
Yes, it did. Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm so grateful.
And that was your little liquor bottle on top of what? What was it rubbing
These little
against?
dangly Meinl chimes. You've heard these. These are a delightful cliche, the sound.
Oh, and that's what they sound like when they're
used properly.
Played the way you're supposed to play them. But yeah. you discovered this way to make it sound like breaking glass.
The other hard sound is splash, because the water is also dangerous on stage. There's a lot of electrical equipment. And if you do use water, what you do is you have a tub of water, and instead of throwing something in water, you pull something out of the water. That actually makes a better sound and is less of a splash zone. But still, we couldn't do water, so I have this wave drum. I'm going to grab it right now.
Okay, he's grabbing a round thing.
This is a shallow drum. Kind of looks like one of those needlepoint round things you put your needlepoint in, and it's closed on top and bottom and filled with little BBs. It's supposed to be the sound of ocean waves. Now, the George jumps into a river, so instead I shake it and it makes a splash. It's going to be loud. Uh-oh. Here's one more splash, because there's two splashes in the show. And that was the hardest sound. I ended up buying hundreds of dollars worth of cymbals that I tried out. They like this one, you like that one, you like this one, 150, 125, sold. But no, they didn't like any of the cymbals. They were too musical.
Now, you had to make a sound when George Bailey, I think, gets his ear slapped by Mr. Gower, right?
Yes. And
if you've seen the movie, that's right at the beginning of the movie. How do you make that sound?
Well, originally I wanted to use a slapstick, and here's a slapstick right here. That's where the word slapstick comedy comes from. But the thing is, a slapstick, implies that the violence isn't real, and people, know that it's over-the-top cartoon violence, and so that wouldn't have been appropriate because it is a serious moment in the show. And I really didn't know what to do, and finally the director that year, Sean Murray, said, "Oh, Scott, just clap your hands together." And of course, he was right. And here I am.
Simple as that?
Yeah. But although sometimes what I do is I wet my hands beforehand. Then no one wants to shake my hand at the end of the show because they see that. But still.
Was there any sound from the old days of radio that you learned about that really surprised you? Maybe you've told us about some already.
Yeah, one of my earliest memories is taking a tour of NBC studios in New York, and back in those days, they would take the audience up to the radio soundstage, and they'd take it to that soundstage. They turn off all the lights, and they would just do a few sound effects of someone walking into a room and then opening up a door. And then, of course, there'd be a blood-curdling scream. I was so scared. I was probably like 5 or 6, and I ended up having to hold my parents' hand. And then when the lights in the room came up, it was some total stranger whose hand I grabbed. It was very nice of them to comfort me. And from that day on, that's when I realized, oh, these radio sound effects can really be quite moving. Auto harp is a wonderful tool to have because you can do it, for the creaky door, but it also can be the grandfather clock chiming. So much can be done with it. And plus, if you're really in trouble, you can actually make music with it too.
You've got a harp behind you. Do you play the harp?
Well, you can't have a show about angels getting their wings without having a harp, Tom Fudge. You just can't.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
And I love my harp, and I use it for a lot of Harpomark's activity when I do like silent film screenings and whatnot. But yeah, this harp is great to use in the show. I use it for a lot of over-the-top glissandos, and the moment when everyone's praying for George. Of course, the passing of time and lots of things. The harp relays so much, and it's quite beautiful to look at too. They spend more time lighting the harp than they did lighting me, and I don't blame them. It's a beautiful harp, and besides, I have a face for radio. So
Scott Paulson plays Sam, the sound effects man, in Cygnet Theater's production of "It's a Wonderful Life," and you're also doing. I don't want to run out of time before we talk about your Thanksgiving show. You're doing a Thanksgiving show tomorrow, right? At the Geisel Library?
At Geisel Library, in front of an exhibit of turkey-related items, and we'll be doing some turkey calls. That's a gobble. And that's a male. And here's a female with her sexy, sexy purr. Very sexy.
Now, when hunters are hunting turkeys, what kind of sounds do they make?
Well,
what's a turkey call that a hunter would use?
Yes, well, it's better for a hunter to pretend he's 2 female turkeys than merely just one. And so this is a 2-sided call. On one side, on the other side, that probably sounds the same to you out there in Radioland, but to a male turkey, he knows, oh, that's 2 available ladies. Over here, that's the yelp. The yelp is like an 8th note, 2 8th notes, 8th note pickup at a high pitch, low pitch. And then the sexy purr. And then the goal is to get the male to gobble, because that's when he's most distracted, and then you shoot him dead. So you've got a turkey call over there, Tom Fudge.
Yeah.
So just look what you just take the little bow paddle and cut. So if we both did it frantically, I think that would work. Let's try.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are hearing the sound of 2 male turkeys fighting
It's pandemonium
over a girl. At least that's what the hunter wants, the real turkey out there in the woods to believe. Well, Scott, it's been fun. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Hope to see you at Cygnet Theater. It's a Wonderful Life.
And Scott Paulson plays Sam, the sound effects man, in Cygnet Theater's production of It's a Wonderful Life that's now going on at Cygnet Theater. And Scott's Thanksgiving show is going to be held tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. at UCSD's Geisel Library. And thanks to all our listeners for listening, and thanks to Scott for joining us. Thank you very much, Scott.
My pleasure.